there. Let's continue. Great. So we want to review our goals in these days, unique and strange days. First of all, first and foremost, you want to keep the routine. You want to keep everything as it was in school, coming to classes, participating, doing homework, speaking Hebrew. Of course, our emphasis will be now on reading and listening comprehension, spoken Hebrew, grammar, and enriching the vocabulary all the time. Our method, we have a saying also, I think you know it, me'az yatsa matok, which means also from bad situations, you can find something good. So we have been forced to find new methods and ways to keep the students engaged. So we're exploring new approaches and new methods how to do this. Thank God we have Google. So we have Google Forms, Google Docs, Google Slides. We can create a shared platform to work with the students. We have online tools, really beautiful online tools like Wiser, PlayPosit, voice recording options, Quizlet. I think you're familiar with Quizlet, and Chevruta. We also have the Zoom allows us to do Chevruta, so the kids are still working in teams, and we're all working together, still keeping the routine. We also have to adjust ourselves to the e-learning and the e-teaching. We know that the pace is really, it's a bit slower than we used to be working class, but we still continue going. Homework, we try to give less homework than we usually give. We know they have a lot of homework in the other classes, so we try to give fewer homework. And we know the typing in Hebrew is a bit hard because not all of the students have a Hebrew keyboard in their computers. So one solution that we found is the option to record the answers in Hebrew or online Hebrew keyboard. So even with these challenges, we always find something else to do to give us a solution.
I still haven't found how is it me moving from one page to another or someone else? I don't, here I have it. Okay, so a few words about the curriculum. We continue working with Bishvil Ivrit, which has a very strong online interface that we always work with. So the students are very familiar with it, and each one of them has an individual password that they can work and submit work directly to us. We continue working with the same methods, and we prepared for you a few examples. So this is, for example, a text that is working on reading comprehension. There are always questions attached to it. Of course, we can listen to the stories. In these particular examples, you don't see the sign where you can actually listen to the story, but once we go over the text, we usually break into rooms, and then the students can work on the text themselves. We can also enter the room, and we realize that there is something positive happening, that now the Chevruta is happening in a closed, quiet room that only 2 or 3 people are sitting in, and actually it seems that the focus is better, and we can also give a more direct feedback than with all the interactions in class. So we're actually enjoying very much that component as well. Here is another example of Bishvil Ivrit. Here is the symbol where the students can actually listen to the conversation. So this is work very well. This is a movie. So there are many, many things online, and again, they are very familiar with it. Another thing that we have in Bishvil Ivrit is grammatical component. Again, this is an example in which the students have to write it down or type it, so they can choose whether they would like to use the virtual Hebrew keyboard, or they would like to write it down and give us send us a screenshot, or whatever they find more comfortable for them. And the last thing, some of the classes are studying now, starting to read a book, Nisim Niflaot by Leah Goldberg. The book is in an abridged version, and there is a booklet that checks their reading comprehension that accompanies the book. They have both a hard copy, both of the book and the booklet, and they also have digital copy of the booklet, and we have a scanned version of the book. So we are moving in between all these versions depending on the chapter and the topic. I think we prepared for you something that we did together as a project. This is, I don't know if someone can tell me the time, because I have no idea what the time is.
8:06.
So we have a few minutes. So we're going to show you.
We have like 1 minute left before.
1 minute. So I'm contemplating between showing you the project and asking if anyone has any questions or feedback that you would like to give us about how you experience it from your end. So maybe have a question if someone wants to ask.
If you have a question, you can raise your virtual hand by clicking on participants and then clicking the hand raise.
I don't see anyone, so I guess we should show you. There is someone?
No, why don't we show the video? And if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay, so.
Or to send them to me later, or Rabbi Jack, and we'll pass them on.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us. This is a project we did this week with the 6th graders. So we will post it, and you will, of course, be able to see it. And we wanted to thank you for being with us. And yeah, see you around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You can move on to your next classroom.
Thank you all. Thank you,
Thank you
6th grade team.
I think I should.
Humanities team, you are now co-hosts. You can unmute yourselves and speak, as well as share your screen if you have anything to share.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Donnie.
So welcome to 8th grade humanities. We are very glad that you are here tonight with us. When Jillian, Will, and I were talking last night and preparing, I told them about a back to school night that I did 10 years ago, during which the power went out and the classroom was lit by the light of the smartboard. I thought this would definitely be the strangest back to school night I would ever participate in, but this definitely, definitely is stranger than that. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see a few slides that we put together. And here we go. Our emails are listed here, and they will also be on the screen at the end of the presentation. And before I turn it over to my colleagues, I just want to say on behalf of all three of us that while being able to silence an entire room full of middle schoolers with a single click of the finger is something of a dream, we really would much rather be in the classroom with your kids. So with that, I turn it over to Will.
Great, thank you very much. Right, so obviously we're dealing with a whole lot of adjustments to expectations. You probably didn't expect that you would be living with your kids 24/7 for the foreseeable future. Obviously the life in the classroom is much different. And so as we're dealing with all of this, we're trying to be mindful of all the facets of your children's well-being. So emotional, physical, mental health. Obviously there's a lot of screen time involved here. We're trying to be very deliberate in terms of how we use it. Mindful that they're staring at the screen. They're always staring at the screen, right? But now they have to stare at the screen always for school too. And so we're also then mindful of the value of creating some kinds of routines around this work, not just giving worksheets and saying, see you in a week or two. Trying to be intentional in how we engage them through this new digital format.
And one of the ways that we are thinking about how to do that is with a reduction in homework. Since students are in classes from 9 to potentially 3, we want to be able to allow them to move away from the screens. And as a result, there's all this extra time for reading. So you might have already seen your children curled up on the couch, picking up a book. Part of our modifications is to give them 30 minutes of independent reading, a book of their choice each day. We're also thinking about the other ways that we need to modify our curriculum. So the curriculum that we are doing is very challenging, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation and how we're thinking about what that looks like for online learning. And then two, the Israel trip and DC trip are key components for experiential learning for the 8th grade humanities course. And we know that it is unlikely that we'll be able to go on either of these, very sadly, but we're thinking about how do we modify our curriculum so it is still very present.
So one of the ways that we have been making this transition to teaching online is by continually asking the kids for feedback about their experience. At the end of our second full day of classes online, so already a week ago last Friday, we sent out a Google form as a survey to all of the students in the grade, and we asked them specifically what is working well for them, what is difficult online, about their organization and note-taking. So here are some answers to give you a sense of the kind of feedback that we are getting. For what's working well, one student wrote, I think Zoom is working out great, specifically the fact that we can be muted because it just makes the classroom quieter and makes it easier to focus. Another said, I like viewing the slides because it's right in front of me. And my personal favorite response was, I like being able to eat snacks. As for what's challenging, they took a little more time with this question. One student wrote, sometimes the computer glitches or freezes, so you miss a few words, or everyone talks on top of each other until the teacher puts everyone on mute. And another student wrote, one thing that's hard with online classes is what you do after they're done. You can only watch so much Netflix and read so much, and it becomes hard with so much free time. Also, it's hard not seeing your friends for so long, even if you can FaceTime them after school.
So let's speak more concretely about how we're transitioned from the physical classroom into the new distance learning. Where possible, we've taken things that are familiar to the students and just made them online. So students regularly have notebooks in class that they use for process writing, for responding to questions on the board, and for taking notes. Those have then just become Google Docs that the students have shared with us. This is also an advantage for the organizationally challenged students because no longer do we give distinct handouts. What we do is we send them a Google Doc that they then paste into their digital journal, so it's all in one place. It also allows us to look at how the students are doing with more regularity and get a sense of whether they're understanding, where we need to reinforce particular ideas. Other things that we get to replicate from a classroom is small groups. Those familiar with Zoom know that it has a breakout rooms feature where students can gather, decide on whatever task we put before them, and then come back to the big group and report. We can share slides just as we do now. The advantage being there's no bad angles because it's your computer right in front of you. And students are also then able during a class to use the chat function within Zoom to ask us questions. And this is something we don't have in a classroom because if they're self-conscious in person, they then get to, through the digital medium, ask about something that's confusing them that they might be reticent about otherwise. We have also then instituted some challenges with an idea toward getting them up and moving. We gave an extra credit challenge to do a dance to Earth, Wind, and Fire. We're thinking that the electric slide might be up next. So we're open to suggestions as well. We want them prepped for a mid-90s bar mitzvah.
So before we moved to distant learning, we were in our Zionism unit. And despite the challenging material, we have not backed away and we are full steam ahead, thinking about the creation of the State of Israel. And we have framed it in thinking about how did Israel come to be in the context of the Middle East. So thinking about Israel in relation to the surrounding countries, as well as thinking about the surrounding countries' relationships and conflicts with each other. And we've been focusing most recently on the conflict after the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the conflicting promises made by the British. And we've been doing investigations over Zoom using maps and primary source text where we've been interpreting and analyzing. And here are some of the examples of what we've been looking at. This is the map that came out of a letter that Henry McMahon wrote to the Sharif of Mecca in 1915, where he promised all of this land to the Sharif of Mecca. Another map that we've used in comparison is that agreement that came out of a secret agreement between the French and the British. And students have been thinking about the ways in which these promises made two different parties could not be kept. And finally, the seminal piece of the Balfour Declaration. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead, Jillian. I cut you off.
Oh, I'm looking at a note from Donnie, which says we only have 20 seconds left, so go ahead, Jen.
Okay, all right, so final note, just that we have not forgotten ELA, that we read a short story and discussed it last week, and there will be other literature to come. And please, please be in touch with any questions or concerns that you have.
So thank you. And
Thank you very
see-
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can move on to your next classroom. Thanks. Sorry about that, Jillian.
No worries at all. Thank you for the reminder.
I was like, oh no, I probably should tell her.
No, I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we have a 10-minute break in this room. Lori, message me if you still need some clarification. You would have to, Lori, you need to end the meeting. Oh, you need to leave this meeting and then go to that Google Doc and click on the correct teacher.
Rebecca?
Yeah, me, the two of you co-hosts so far. Nobody else is in
Okay,
the
good.
other.
Yeah, we're the only two here. Thank you.
Sure. There we go. We got Sneer.
אז
כן.
רגע, לא, זה לא אתה ואני co-host, זה ענבל ואני co-host.
לא, זה כיתה ח', רבקה.
אז אתה מתחיל ואני מדברת על
Sneer, Liat,
התוכנית.
Rebecca.
שלום רבי ג'ק.
Rabbi Jack is not here. He's here?
No, he's not.
No.
אז מי
I
אמר?
mean, he might
זה
pop in.
ידוני?
It's only 8:28. So
Yeah.
people
No,
are
I
still gonna
thought
come in.
I thought it was I confused your voice. I don't know. I thought I heard this voice.
Shalom. Is that better?
So Donnie, tell me, we are now talking, but no one is listening to us?
Nope, they can all hear us. Everyone who's in
Ah.
the room can hear us.
Okay.
So
Just
far,
wanted to
there's
make
nothing.
sure that I
Yeah,
don't say
so
what I
let's
want.
stay. Yeah, nope. Do not say what you want. Only say what you're okay with parents hearing.
Okay.
אוקיי, רבקה, תיקנתי את התקלה, זה עובד.
אוקיי, ואתה מתחיל ואני עושה את תוכנית הלימודים, נכון?
כן, ואני אעביר לך את המצגת תוך כדי שתדברי. שתסיימי, אני אעביר.
טוב. אז כשאני מדברת על הפעילות שעשינו אצלי, אני צריכה שתסמן כאילו עם הסמן את מה שאני מדברת עליו.
אוקיי.
We're going to start in about 1 minute.
אתה רוצה לשים את השיר לדקה אחת, או לא?
נראה לי בסוף נשים פשוט.
אוקיי, בסדר.
Evyatar, if you're going to play a video when you shared your screen, you make sure to check share audio and optimize for
full screen.
I forgot, right. Okay.
Yeah, so you could stop share and then check those two boxes at the bottom just so that it plays.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's not in here yet. All right, it's 8:30.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Shalom, everyone. It's very good to see you, although it's here, not in school. I really hope we're going to go back to normal soon. I'm Evyatar. I'm a Hebrew teacher in the 8th grade and advisor in the 8th grade. And here with me is Rebecca and Sneer and Liat, all the Hebrew teacher of the 8th grade. We're going to share a few things about the 8th grade Hebrew department, how we're working now online and the adjustments we do here. And before that, please, I want to just encourage you to share with us any comments, any concerns, any even like questions you have, even not now during this whole period, like in email or share questions with us or with Rabbi Jack. And we're more than happy to answer your questions and concerns. We all, of course, are learning together, or we're starting together this situation and to work together here with the students. And we're going to start with the phrase we have in Hebrew. Says, "Avarnu et Paro, na'avor gam et zeh." We overcame Paro, so we're going to overcome this time all together. And here we are with the students. We're going to share with our goals, our Hebrew goals to the 8th grade. So our main goal is to keep the routine goals, the Hebrew routine, in terms of emphasize reading and listening comprehension, spoken Hebrew. We're doing a lot of activities of speaking Hebrew now. It's easier online to do, and open a lot of other options for us. And also we encourage them to read Hebrew at home, even when at the time we don't have classes online. Of course, we continue with our Hebrew program, Hebrew curriculum that Rebecca is going to speak more about it later. We're going to do the grammar and vocabulary and homework. When we give the homework, we know that it's much harder now in terms of the online school. So of course, also the homework time, we're trying to make it easier to do it to make it less screen time and more writing and reading time without the screen in Hebrew. Of course, as we go on with the online schools, we have opportunity to work with a lot of different methods here to explore with the students a lot of new methods. Of course, we have the Google, thank God we have the Google Class and all the Google tools to work with. Also, we are, of course, continuing working as a Chavruta. Zoom is allowing us to work as in groups to break up to the kids, the students to groups. So we keep working together as groups and encourage them to work with each other even out of the classes and speak to each other in Hebrew, read with each other and record themselves, send it to us, and doing a lot of new projects in Hebrew. You know, as the time goes, we're learning with them and we're trying to make it as much as easier for them just to keep the Hebrew routine going, even with the online school. And I'm gonna pass it to Rebecca to talk a little bit about the curriculum goes on online. Rebecca, you here?
I am here. Hi everyone, Shalom, Erev Tov. So as Evyatar say, we are trying to keep things as usual while we are at the same time adapting to this idea of learning online. I would like to start by reminding all of us from open house at the beginning of the school year that the curriculum in 8th grade centers around 5 circles of commitment to myself, to the family, to the community and friends. The 4th one is to my nation and to my country. And the 5th one is to the world. We did skip, in light of this adaptation to online learning and teaching and learning, we skipped over the 3rd unit, commitment to community and friends, because it's project-based, which requires from us really to be in school. And we went straight to the 4th one, which is commitment to my nation and country. One of the examples, and this is really an example, the ways by which we learn that I am going to show through this activity, it's really something that all of the teachers are doing at the level that they are teaching. So in this unit, we are reading the book Korot Kita Achat, the history of a class. It tells the story of a class in Warsaw between 2 world wars. And we just started it. This activity is about chapter 2. And a big characteristic of this book that actually is a memoir is that in every chapter, it presents several characters, whether they are teachers or they are students. So in class, in this Zoom meeting, we discuss with the students, how do we characterize and how do we describe characters in the book. We developed some criteria for our work. We, to get there, developed this worksheet that Evyatar is pointing at. Then the students broke up into Zoom breakup rooms to work with 2 other members of the class to read carefully the chapter and fill in the information. What is the information that the book is giving us? What are the quotes from where we learned this information? And what do we think about that character? That was classwork. As homework, the student needed to summarize all the information that they collected and discussed during classwork, during class time that they did in the Chavruta. And here on the left side of your screen, you can see 2 examples. And we are trying to be as flexible as we can, allowing students to submit work in the way that is most comfortable for them. So in the bottom of the page, you will see a student who is not yet comfortable with typing. So he could write his answer in the in his notebook, take a picture, put it on a Google Doc, share it with me, and I could share my comments with him on the same document. The example above, it's an example of a student who is comfortable with typing, and I can mark things on the work, comment on the side, and of course, description later on. Another example of work is that in other classes, they are reading other books. The book Chibuk that we just, some classes finished it just now online, a book by David Grossman from our second unit, Commitment to My Family, and the book Sarah Giborat Nili that also pertains to the fourth unit, Commitment to My People and My Country. Eviatar, I think that we are going to move on. We want to share with you a project that we have been doing with 8th grade and actually with the entire school. We taught the students a song called Yachad, Together, and the song really speaks about the hope that we have for better days as long as we stick together. And here is our project. Enjoy it.
So I can make sure that it works.
עוד נדע ימים טובים מאלה, עוד נדע ימים טובים פי אלה, שורשינו יעמיקו סלע כמו ארזים בהר. עוד נדע ימים טובים מאלה, עוד נמתיק מימיו של ים המלח בשדה ירוק, אחר השלג באשת בלב מדבר. יחד כל הדרך, יחד לא אחרת, יד ביד נושיט לטוב שעוד יבוא, בוא יבוא. יחד כל הדרך, יחד לא אחרת, יחד היא שלי שיפתח את לבבו.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to all of you for coming. If you have any questions or any comments, any feedback, we would love to hear how does it look from your end. Please reach out to us and let us know. Thank you all so very much for coming.
All right, we're going to start the science with David and Peter now. David and Peter, your co-hosts, you're welcome to unmute and or share your screen. David, I'll unmute you.
Can you hear?
David? Yes.
You can hear you. All right, we'll start the 6th grade science. Peter hopefully will join us and as soon as he can log in. I'm here. There he is. When we left, just before in the weeks before we left school, we were laying the groundwork in electricity. Both in theory and in practice. We were learning what static electricity was. We were learning what current electricity was. We were talking about the early pioneers of like Benjamin Franklin and Galvani, the things that they discovered. In the labs, we were making our basic circuits out of aluminum foil wires, and we were just beginning to make bulb holders and things to make more complicated circuits. And along came you know what? And here we are on the last 2.5 weeks we've been doing online learning. We've progressed to the point where we've tried to tie together the early basics that we've learned about electromagnetism and how making electric current and things like that, and showing how that led to the more modern inventions of the telegraph and the telephone. And today we just started Edison and the light bulb. And I think we've been doing a really good job of giving the kids a background and lecturing about and discussing with them about what's been the progress that was made and how these one invention came from the other and how it changed society. Of course, we've had with science, one of the problems has been a lot of science is hands-on activity and labs, and we haven't been able to do that. And we've been trying to come up with some ways of having them do things. Maybe Peter can explain in a minute. When we were doing the telegraph, he had them doing a project with Morse code at home. We had them doing, making the telephones out of paper cups and string to illustrate the principle behind how the telephone worked using electricity rather than a string. And we're experimenting with different ways to get them to do some experiments at home and some hands-on things as much as we can. We'll probably finish the electricity unit by Pesach, and then we'll move into the next unit, which we'll have to do some planning for, depending on whether we're back in school or not, but we'll work it out. And Peter, maybe you want to explain what we did with the Morse code, or what your thoughts are?
So as David mentioned, it is obviously difficult to find ways to engage the kids hands-on, besides having them scrounge around their houses for various materials. Some of you may have noticed your kids running around looking for cups and string in the last week or so. But given that we have this new platform, we also have some new opportunities. So what we've done with the students this week, and something we're going to try to work in more regularly, is we gave them a Morse code challenge. So for the first 10, 15 minutes of class, they're not allowed to speak. We actually mute them, so they can't do that. And I put this on the screen. So we have this very nice share screen function, and I gave them a prompt in Morse code. This is what we call the question of the day. And each of them has a Morse code translation key in their reading booklets. They're supposed to look through their booklet, translate this, and then reply in the actual Zoom chat function, which I now can't access because it's not coming up. There we go. Reply in the Zoom chat function, which you can all see below, and they have to reply in Morse code using periods and dashes and get the correct answer. Now, what I just sent isn't the correct answer. I don't actually know Morse code and I don't have my key on me, but you get the gist. So we do have these other ways to be interactive. There's also in the upcoming units with aeronautics and air pressure, and also maybe we're going to do some space travel stuff with them. There are a lot of online interactive resources. These, aren't as good as being able to put their hands on something in the lab, but there are various physics simulations that have been done by various universities that we can have the students play around with and do an activity with. So they are getting some ability to engage with the material personally.
In place of some of the demonstrations, we've been using some videos. There's very good videos from National Geographic and PBS. We had one on Alexander Graham Bell, and we showed part of one today on Edison. And we don't want to depend on videos, but we intersperse them with the lecture to make show how these scientists really develop, how they brought together the theory and made these inventions, and try to give them some sense of how it's changed our society. Edison in particular, and Alexander Graham Bell, we wouldn't have the society we have today without them. And the kids have been pretty responsive, I have to say. I was skeptical at first. I didn't think they would be very, it would be hard to keep them focused on a screen, but they've been pretty good. We've been very pleased with how they've participated. We've had very few absences. And we're working really hard to keep them involved. It's a challenge, I have to say. using teaching is really, it's an interactive thing. It's much harder, I find, teaching to a screen than it is teaching to a bunch in person. It's a relational thing. You relate to the kids, you interact with them. That's part of this, what teaching is. And it's a whole nother process here, learning to do it with the screen. But I think we're getting it. Peter and I are getting it, and we're getting the kids involved, and hopefully getting them as excited as they might be in person. I don't know if we can take questions or anything, or that's kind
we have about 1 minute for questions. If anybody has a question, they can raise their virtual hand, and I can unmute them for them to ask a question. Dina Schiff has a question. Dina, I'm going to unmute you now. Feel free to ask your question.
Yeah, so just a quick question. I know we're running out of time. I guess this is science. This may be the most appropriate class to do this. Has there been any thought to talking to the kids and teaching the kids about the virus, what the health risks are, what can be done, what shouldn't be done, what the ultimate risks are, and trying to give them a more intellectual read on it rather than what they might read on the internet and Facebook and YouTube and the like?
Good question. We did devote a class to the last class. In fact, a week ago Wednesday, we did spend a lot of time talking about it and explaining why we were going to close the school and work at home. We really haven't talked about it that much since then. And they haven't brought it up. And we just didn't feel the need to interject that. I mean, we're doing pretty well with the curriculum we've got now, and it hasn't come up in class at all.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We have about 30 seconds until the 8:50 session. Now is a great time to head out to the next room. We will be starting Ivrit shortly.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, I've made everyone except for Michal a co-host. I don't see Michal in here yet. We should start.
Okay. Erev Tov, Shalom, and good evening to all. Welcome to our 7th grade Ivrit open house presentation. Imbal, can you move to the next slide, please? To the next one. So in Hebrew, we have a saying which is very timely with Passover approaching. It is Avarnu et Paro, na'avor gam et ze. We overcame Pharaoh, we shall overcome this one as well. And in that spirit, we are going to tell you about what we are doing in class these days of e-teaching and e-learning. Our goal is really to keep the routine. And we are doing that. We continue to emphasize reading and listening comprehension skills, as well as oral expression skills. The classes are still conducted in Hebrew, and we still require the students to respond to us in Hebrew and also to talk to Hebrew to each other while they are working. We will speak more about it when we show you some examples of the curriculum. We continue to teach grammar and enrich vocabulary, which are the building blocks of the language. We also continue to assign homework, and we are here very mindful of how much we are giving and the modalities by which we allow the students to send us the homework so we can look at it, grade it, comment on it. We allow it to be typed, to be written and uploaded via a picture. And also we allow students to record their answers orally. We would like to present you some, we want to say that some of us are encouraged to search for more new approaches to teaching online, and some of that are more forced to do it, and we are all doing it together, discovering new tools. We use Google Drive tools, thank God we have them. We also use other apps such as Wiser and PlayPosit, which is great when we are watching videos, voice recording options, Quizlet, which is great for learning vocabulary and concepts, and also Chevruta. Zoom, the platform that we are using, is great to allow us to do student work together. And Inbal, that is going to tell us about the curriculum, will speak about it more. Inbal? Unmute yourself, Inbal.
Just a second.
I unmuted you, Inbal.
Thank you. Good evening. So as Rebecca mentioned, we are looking also for new platforms for both teaching and assessing, but we are using the same textbooks and some of the same methods, of course, that we are using always. The students have the text both in hard copies and in digital individual copies, so they can also decide how they want to approach it, either write by hand or type or send, as Rebecca mentioned. We wanted to show you a few examples of things we are doing at the moment. Some groups are learning at the moment the story about the Biluim. In general, the yearly topic of the 7th grade is Israel and the early pioneers that arrived to Palestine. Some of the classes are studying at the moment the story about the Biluim, which were the very first pioneers to arrive there. And this is only an example, but we wanted to show you that you have an excerpt from the text on the right side that we learned about the decision of the Biluim to immigrate to Palestine and the reaction of their families, etc. And on the left side, you have some persuasive expressions that we learned in class. We learned them as an additional thing to the text, and then the students were paired up to go and left to their breakout rooms. And one of the things, this is again only an example, but one of the things we notice is that the breakout rooms allow the students to somehow concentrate better on the work. They are there in this example to act out the dialogue, draw on the text, the idea of the text, and use these persuasive expressions. And the breakout rooms allows them not only to work much better and contained with each other, but also us to help them and enter the room and give them a more direct and quiet feedback. So another example of what we are doing, other groups are busy now learning about the kibbutz, why the kibbutzim, this unique phenomenon, some core principle of the kibbutz, how it has evolved over the years. We are using, again, texts in both hard copies and in digital copies. One of the main grammatical components of the kibbutz is something that is called smichut, is a construct state in English. And again, we noticed something very interesting, that when and you can witness it yourself, when you're sitting in front of the screen and you have this grammatical component, and we can play with the size of the letters. We are typing the letters as opposed to writing them on hand on the board. We can play with colors. We can play with all kinds of things that make it somehow very clear. And we are very happy to discover that this is going very well when we are sharing the screen at home with the students. So these are only Some examples, some of the classes are busy reading or just starting reading a book. They have both, again, the hard copies and also booklets that are accompanying the reading of the book with some reading comprehension assessments in them that they have in digital copies. Yeah, and I think I covered maybe all the curriculum, and I don't know if someone can give me a feedback about the time.
Yeah, we have about 2 minutes left.
2 minutes left. So I would like maybe to swap the last two screens and maybe allow some time for questions or feedback from you, how this is look from your end. And then we would like to show you, if we have time, this project that we did together this week. So really to hear from you, if someone, maybe you can raise your virtual hands if you have any questions.
So to raise your virtual hand, you can click on participants and then click on the little blue hand.
I guess no questions. So
I just wanted to say, Inbal, that we welcome questions or feedback. How does it look like from your end? We are very much interested in hearing. But if there are no hands, then let's move to the project.
Okay, so we did this week a project called Yachad, following the song Yachad that maybe you know. And I think it speaks for itself. I'm gonna put it on and then say goodbye when it ends. Enjoy it.
עוד נדע ימים טובים אלה, עוד נדע ימים טובים פי אלה, שורשינו יעמיקו סלע כמו ארזים בהר. עוד נדע ימים טובים אלה, עוד נמתיק מימיו של ים המלח בשדה ירוק, אחר השלג ואשת אל מדבר. יחד כל הדרך יחד, לא אחרת יד ביד, נושיט לטוב שעוד יבוא, בוא יבוא. יחד כל הדרך יחד, לא אחרת יחד היא שלי, שיפתח ולבבו. רק נאמין בעוז הרוח, רק נאמין ולא ננוח מן המיצרים, אל ים פתוח כמים רבים נישא. רק נאמין ודאי נצליח, רק נאמין ודאי נגיע בימים.
So I see it's already 9 o'clock, so we wanted to say goodbye, and we are going to post it, I guess, any moment now in the hub. So thank you very much for coming, being with us today, and we hope to see you in person soon.
Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good night.